The Central Bank of Nigeria has permitted international oil companies to resume the sale of US dollars to banks in a move aimed at injecting liquidity into the investors' and exporters' foreign exchange market. According to reports, developments in the foreign exchange market yesterday suggests that the restriction placed on IOCs from selling dollars to dealing member banks had been lifted. And you would recall that the Central Bank of Nigeria is now under a new command, with the acting governor, Folashodun Shonubi, seen reversing the policies of suspended governor Godwin Emefiele since he was handed the job by President Bola Tinubu. Shonubi only took the helm of affairs in Nigeria in May, but has moved quickly in delivering the thorough house cleaning of monetary policies he promised. Now, this morning, joining me for this conversation, I have Muktar Mohammed, a financial analyst and CEO at Share Dynamic Solutions. He's joining me from Lagos. Thank you so much, Muktar, once again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So to have a proper understanding of the precedents, why did the CBN restrict the IOCs from selling dollars to banks in the first place?
Well, that was done a very long time ago. I think even it was done during the military era, and I think that decision was never reversed. What they say the IOC does is that the IOC sell dollars to NNPC, and then the NNPC in turn remit it into the CBN. That was done because there was a lot of round tipping in the FX market at that time, some years ago, and that also led to the suspensions of some banks for years not to be dealing FX at that time. So it was a means of trying to guide against the round tipping and a lot of inconsistency at that time in the FX market.
Well, some of these IOCs have argued that the CBN was being too hard and the level of scrutiny was too stringent on them. And now I'd like to also understand, was it that the Apex Bank was out of line with its monitoring mechanism, or you would just say that these oil companies feel entitled to operate unsupervised?
No, you look, in capitalism, you need to have a regulator, and the CBN itself is not the regulator of the oil company. The CBN is the regulator of the financial system, not the oil companies. And so the oil companies have their regulators, which are supposed to be looking into their books. But I think when it came to the issues of FX, that's why we keep saying that FX have been thrown in a lot of controversies, in a lot of issues that were not clear as why things were shrewd, a lot of dealings behind the scene. At a point, they said the IOC will have to remit FX to the presidency sometimes. Some people in the presidency remit this FX to really change outside the space, not even to NNPC. So there's a lot of things that were going on that were not right. And I think maybe that was why the CBN was hard on them, because most of them, when they see such things, they start looking for means to handle their FX without the CBN knowing, maybe by not disclosing all of the FX that they have.
So in between the time that the ban was in place, how did the IOCs react to it? Did they actually go seeking other countries or probably other partners when it comes to FX transactions, as it were?
Well, you need to understand that not that they were not doing this transaction, but they have to do it through the CBN. Okay. So the CBN gives you the official rate at that time, and that's what you would take. So definitely they were having those transactions, but again, it was the government rate that they were having at that time.
All right, so did that ban actually have any impact on Nigerian businesses? Did it have any impact on probably small businesses, other businesses that has to do with import and export that actually make do with forex availability, either to import goods or probably to export goods?
Yes, of course it does, because at the point, the only people that received FX as received was the CBN, from the OIC, and then for the sale of crude oil. And the CBN keep that, and the banks need FX. The bank will need to write to CBN, maybe in the area of PTA or school fees or medicals. So the bank will need to seek the CBN approval before they do these things. So they couldn't go out of their way to market themselves, to earn FX into their own space and give it to their customers. If you are a customer in the bank, you needed FX, you must have also opened a DOM account and have that money there. It was not it was not something you can easily go. But now with this policy, what it's saying is that, look, you earn most of these oil majors normally have FX. But in Nigeria, most of them, the FX they have sometimes is the payment of their own part of the agreement between them and NNPC. So that will find its way into the banking space. Also, they have investors, and the removal of subsidy now will attract a lot of investors into this space. So those investors will have to come into the banks, and with their liquidity coming into the bank. So that in itself will make you show up the bank liquidity in the area of FX. And then also banks will be able to lend to SMEs that want to do export product. And again, remember that we still have SMEs that want to export product and the ones that want to import product. So once you make that two-way exchange system, liquidity no more becomes a challenge. Then you have stability in the rate. Now the banks are saying you don't have to go out of the banking space to do your transaction. Maybe you want to change your naira to dollar, or maybe your dollar to naira for now. They will do it you can even do it at the comfort of your room through your phone, and that money will be credited back to you based on the official price at that day. And it shows that there is a comparison, even if we think that the difference, sometimes the difference in terms of the value of the naira is very, very underpriced. But there is a comparison between the parallel market and the official market. So it makes things easy. So very soon, when we have this liquidity awash in the banking sector, awash in the banks, we will begin to hear them tell Nigerians to come on also change your naira into dollar if you have need for it.
All right, so now that both the CBN, as we see it, and the IOCs have promised to continue to work together to actually ensure that the foreign exchange market remains stable. Now, what collaborative efforts would you subscribe to or say that should be in place to ensure that there's that much needed stability in the market? Because you mentioned a couple of things that this new initiative or this new directive will bring on board. So would it ensure that there is stability in the market? Would it ensure that there's no currency volatility and there's no issue with the economy as regards the mechanics?
Yeah, I think in the short term, we might not see that immediately, but we'll begin to see signs of it. Now, you need to look at where we earn our FX from. Nigeria, we earn FX from whether we are earning FX from foreign from sale of crude oil. We are earning FX also from Nigeria in the diaspora. We are earning FX maybe through foreign direct investors or portfolio investors, or we are earning FX through exporting. So those are the means that we earn FX. Now, if we are not earning FX, if we are earning FX in those spaces, but as it stands now, there's a challenge with oil production. You know, we have that challenge already. Nigerian diasporas have not begun to remit remittance home because of their own challenge after coming out from COVID. In foreign and direct investors are not coming. So for the CBN to turn to the oil majors, that will help now. Remember that in the floating of the naira, it has been agreed and it said that it's not when you float the naira doesn't mean that you will not have anything to do with the naira. So what it means is that the CBN and the oil majors will be intervening in the market to make sure that there is stability, especially with the naira to the dollar. And that means their intervention means that they will be putting on liquidity in the system, especially in the I and E wing. So if they are doing that, then they will stabilize the exchange rate, both of them, and then we could see the foreign investors begin to come. And once you have the Nigerian diaspora, they will recover and also begin to send money. Remember, there was a time that money from Nigeria in the diaspora was even more than what we earned through sale of crude oil.
All right. So even as we talk about market stability and the naira being stable, as it were, so would you say that probably in the next few months or in the coming years, there could be some sort of value regain for the naira, because it actually lost about 60% of its value over the last few years due to policies by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So do we expect to see some sort of gains in the naira value probably in the next few years?
There's a lot of work to be done if you want to see that. We must begin to drive away from an import-dependent nation to an export-dependent nation. That is one. We must also begin to create institutions that will make sure they will attract the right kind of investors into Nigeria. Government also needs to be prudent in their expenditure, especially with public officers going abroad, going with private jet and all that. So definitely it will come to that point. But there's still a lot of work to be done. And one of those work is how can we earn FX? How can we diversify our economy? It shouldn't be only earn FX if we sell of crude. We should earn FX also in other areas. How can we do that? The best way we can do that is if government begin to build those infrastructure. Let there be power, let there be transportation, good neighborhood, let them be education, let them be healthcare. Then with that policy coming in place, definitely your currency will be stable, because what is driving the dollar higher to the naira has to do with demand, because most of the goods, most of the services, most of the treatment, even including education, all these things are done abroad. So you need FX. So it's putting more pressure on the naira. But if we begin to build those institutions, we're able to support liquidity, we could see the naira regaining some of those values that we think they have lost.
All right, we hope that too. Thank you so much, Muktar, for joining our conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.